David.
Prathap Chatterjee, Interpress Service. So my question actually is about, in the last couple of days, President Obama, and in fact the last year, has escalated the war of words with Iran, talked about the European missile shield. It seems to me films like yours, Lawrence, could actually play a role in convincing people, countries such as Iran, to de-escalate. I know that Lawrence recently went to both India and Pakistan, more success in Pakistan and not as much success in India. Are you going to try and take the film to Iran? And are you, and you know, the Halabi family presumably has connections in Syria. Could you take it to the Middle East and take it around there to convince people, instead of be part of this escalation of words between the U.S. media and the U.S. government, is to actually be part of joining hands on the Global Zero campaign?
Well, I'll address the film part. Someone else can address the escalation of words. I was just in India. I wasn't in Pakistan, actually. We tried to shoot in Pakistan, and it's very difficult to get. It's easier to get in as a journalist or as a tourist, but much harder. So we ended up filming President Musharraf in London. But I actually was just in India. Screened the movie in Mumbai. Screened the movie in Delhi. We had a phenomenal group of people there. Part of the Global Zero people that hosted the screening in Delhi was General, Air Force Marshal, Chief Air Force Marshal Tyagi. He used to oversee the entire Air Force of India, which primarily oversees the nuclear arsenal, and some other pretty extraordinary people that were in charge of the arsenal. In 1998, they thought that it was in India's national interest to have nuclear weapons. And a dozen years later, they felt that it's now in their national interest to get rid of them, not unilaterally, of course. And it was a terrific place to be. It was my first time in India, but I had it's people. Most people around the world have no idea. Just like when we made the movie about global warming, most people didn't understand that the climate crisis was a serious issue. And then when people saw Al Gore's presentation, it becomes very obvious. And it was the same with this movie in India. And I have commitments from people there. There's 500 million cell phones in India. There was 19 million cell phones sold last month. And one of the people that's involved with this technology around cell phones committed to getting 10 million zero heroes, 10 million people to sign the declaration over the next several months in support of the movie, in support of this whole campaign. So the answer is that, as Queen Noor said, this is an international campaign, and we want all the countries around the world to see it, the Middle East, everywhere. It's important for nuclear states and non-nuclear states, obviously, because this is a global effort.
And we have members of Global Zero. Our founding leaders come from Pakistan, from India, from China, from most nuclear states, and God willing, in the future, all will be represented on Global Zero. And they are hopeful. We've had long, lengthy, you could describe them in better detail than I perhaps, but long, lengthy discussions about all aspects of the challenges that we face. And these are the former architects, in many cases, of the nuclear programs in Europe and Asia and elsewhere, who do believe in zero, or they wouldn't be with us, but also believe that their countries can be brought around to, but it's going to require a phased, verifiable, and a process with enforcement mechanisms as well. But they do believe it's possible.
Are you trying to think to Iran and Syria?
I'm willing to go with you.
I would love to.
The short answer, just to add, is that the beauty of film is it goes all over the world. And a little story, a couple of years ago, I was in India, in very remote part of the Himalayan foothills, staying in a place where the roads ran out. We were carrying packs. We ended up in a little hostel with no electricity. And one of the kids who was there said, "Oh, An Inconvenient Truth." And he had seen the movie, and he had shown it to all his friends. And we hope to get this film into as many places as we possibly can, especially places that need to see it, like Iran and Syria and so on.
Ambassador Burke, David Korn of Mother Jones Magazine and PoliticsDaily.com. The start treaty will lead to somewhat of a political fight in the Senate, and arms control advocates are already worried that Senator John Kyle and some other Republicans will be obstructionist, and they sort of seem to be positioning themselves at least to make the ratification process hard, if not impossible. And so, what's your message to those Republicans as this whole new front line in Washington begins?
Well, I can say as a former political appointee of 2 Republican administrations, that I think it's going to be very difficult for anybody to come up with a very strong set of coherent arguments against this treaty. The treaty itself, as you know very well, does not take sweeping steps to reduce either the Russian or the U.S. Deployed arsenal. If you view it in a kind of just as a snapshot, it's a very small step towards further reductions. I think the importance of the treaty is broader in terms of putting the U.S.-Russian arms control process on track again, and it's been off track for nearly a decade. It is important because it could lead then to a much more profound set of agreements following this treaty. But the treaty itself, I think, is going to be, I think, in my judgment, will be ratified, because I think the administration and the Russian side have not kind of fundamentally changed the structure of the arms control process and the treaty that I helped negotiate in the 1990s. So yeah, there will be some outliers who I think will vote against it, but I am confident that someone with the integrity and credibility of Richard Lugar, the minority leader of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, will bring enough Republicans on board to get it ratified. People will have some special projects, and they'll want, for instance, the nuclear labs and other kind of other special interests taken care of in the context of this treaty, and that's not new to arms control. And so I think people are positioning themselves to engage in that kind of wheeling and dealing. But I think anybody who would vote against this treaty needs to think about the consequences of what would be the signal we would send to the rest of the world if the United States could not ratify this treaty. What would be the impact on proliferation? What would be the impact on the problem of the spread of nuclear materials worldwide? What would it do to the U.S. leadership position around the world on not just nuclear arms control, but a whole range of international order issues? I mean, in my judgment, it's very clear what the consequences would be, and for that reason, I'm even given the kind of dysfunctional political situation that exists now in the U.S. Senate, I am still optimistic that it will be ratified.
Thank you.
I think with that, we're going to go ahead and close this session right afterwards you can answer your question. We're going to close this session of the press conference. We're going to open it up now for those of you today who have scheduled with us some brief stand-up interviews, especially for camera crews that have already scheduled with us. We're going to begin that in just about 3 minutes. Just so folks know, I'd like people to come and identify themselves. Jessica Little is going to be with Valerie Plame Wilson, as well as Ambassador Richard Burke. They will be conducting some interviews right over here on this wall in front of the 2 backdrops that will be there. Her Majesty Queen Noor Lawrence Bender and Jeff Skoll, and others who will be doing some interviews right here. Alona, raise your hand, will be with Her Majesty Queen Noor. Marcy, right here, will be with Lawrence Bender and Jeff Skoll, and I will be with Ambassador Byrd. And we'll get started in just a few minutes. And first up, for folks who, in order of interviews, folks who are scheduled, for Valerie Blaine Wilson, we have CNN, ABC, BBC, and Xinhua. With Ambassador Byrd, we have Phoenix TV, CBF Germany. For Her Majesty Queen Noor, we have Phoenix and BBC. And for Lawrence Bender, we have ABC. That's the order right now, but if others would also like to schedule, please see Blair. And Blair will be roving around to pencil folks in so we can do this as quickly as possible. So we'll get started in just about 2 minutes. Thank you so much, y'all.